So today, my guest joining me is Mr. Nick Dinsmore. How are you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Really good, thank you. Do you know, I'm in love with the room. I mean, I was looking behind you. Is that like a Doink the Clown costume behind you?
I performed as Doink the Clown on two separate occasions, and that is a Doink the Clown costume.
I can see all the figures. Like, you've got some really cool kind of memorabilia behind you.
All kinds of memorabilia and merchandise available on my website, MidwestAllPro.com, as well as my eBay, Eugene Dinsmore.
I love that. That's nice. Some nice nostalgia there. I wanted to kind of go back to the beginning with you, just kind of for one, where your love and passion for wrestling actually came from. Was it something you just loved watching as a child?
I started watching WWF Saturday Night's Main Event when I was 8 or 9 years old, and just kind of fell in love with the whole show. And then, as I saw, the British Bulldogs were really the ones that I really liked watching them. They were athletic and agile and big and fit. And I mean, just the whole spectacle. Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan. It was just, it just caught me and just captured me.
And I know you kind of did a lot of stuff on the indies, but also you had a big success in OVW as well prior to your WWE. I mean, you got beat some records there as well, didn't you? You were 10 times heavyweight champion?
10 times, but who's counting?
And you had some tag team success as well, didn't you?
Very much so, yes.
As well with Rob Conway. What was your kind of memories and your experience at OVW? Is it something you look back on with fond memories?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I grew up in the Louisville, Kentucky area, and I went to high school. I happened to go to high school with a girl that her father trained wrestlers at the Nightmare Danny Davis School of Professional Wrestling. He was the Nightmare Danny Davis. And I signed up wrestling with him in 1996. In 1998, he partnered with WWE to become their developmental training center. And I kind of got in there, and it was just it was a good time. They started sending all the WWE talent when they first signed them. John Cena was sent there, Batista, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, Victoria. And at the time they came in, I had about 3 years experience. So I was kind of a wrestler on the roster, but I was also kind of a coach. So playing both roles. But yeah, OVW, I look back on very fond memories.
I mean, what were people like? Because Brock Lesnar, a lot of people say in interviews, were kind of, if you're backstage, you leave him alone, you don't talk to him. So what are your kind of memories with Brock Lesnar? Was he someone you used to share a lot of conversations with?
I mean, yeah. At training, we didn't hang out a whole lot outside of wrestling, but he was super nice. He was always on time. He showed up early. He always had a good attitude. I don't think that I think, in my opinion, people might be intimidated to go up and talk to him, but he was never one that you feel like you could not approach.
For you, where did your kind of WWE journey come from? Were you just approached to sign up with them? How did the contract come about for you?
So in 1998, I wrestled on the first Brian Pillman Memorial Show. That's where I met Terry Taylor. At the time, he was working in the office for WCW, and he said, "We want you to come in, wrestle on Nitro and Thunder and WCW Saturday Night." So throughout 1998, I did, I don't know, dozen or more appearances on WCW. Terry Taylor got released by WCW. And then he got hired by WWE to be in talent relations. And that's when he, in 1999, gave me my developmental contract.
And obviously, everyone, a lot of people, you got it on your top there, will remember you as Eugene, the nephew of, was it the nephew of Eric Bischoff?
Yes, yeah. Uncle Eric.
Yeah. And when you came in, it was different. It's something we had never seen on TV before in regards to the character. And you came in and no one knew what to expect, but you became a fan favorite. And you had the ability, I think a lot of it comes down to your performance. You had the ability to win over the audience. A lot of the time we kind of felt protective of Eugene and we wanted the best for it. So when they came to you with the idea and said, this is what you're going to be doing, what were your initial thoughts on that?
Well, I came to them with the idea. I'm the one that pitched it.
Oh, honestly.
So Danny Davis was the head trainer at OVW, but one of the other coaches was Rip Rogers, the hustler Rip Rogers. And Rip's son has autism, and Rip gave me an idea one day. So what about a character that might not be able to be very social, and he can't tie his boots, but once he gets in the ring, he can do anything that he's seen on TV flawlessly. He knows wrestling history. He knows, trivia, everything. So I said, I like it. So I pitched that idea to the agents at the time that were coming down to Louisville, Finley, D. Malenko, Arn Anderson, and they all said, no, I don't think wrestling's gone beyond that. We don't do gimmicky stuff like that anymore. All right, a couple months go by. The writers came down to Louisville. So I pitched the idea to the writers, and they're like, no, Vince wouldn't do anything like that. That's not what WWE does. Okay. I saw a lot of guys in the developmental system complain and then get called up. Like the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And I had no intention of quitting, but I told my friend Doug Basham, I said, I think I'm going to quit and try to go to Japan. Doug told Dean Malenko, Dean told Johnny Ace. Next thing I know, I'm sitting in a meeting in early 2004 with Vince McMahon and Stephanie. And Vince goes, I want to get back to character-based wrestling. And I just blurted out the idea, what about a Rain Man type character, an idiot savant that knows wrestling flawlessly, but he's just kind of shy and antisocial. And he's all right. And so him and Stephanie are talking back and forth, pitching ideas. And all of a sudden, I don't remember when it was. It was early 2004. I think it was February. Stone Cold Steve Austin was there. So Austin walks in. And Vince goes, Steve, you ever seen this guy wrestle? And he goes, no, I'm sorry, I haven't. And I knew that Steve Austin and Danny Davis were friends back in the Dallas days. So I said, well, Danny Davis trained me. He goes, well, then he's probably one of the best. And with that vote of confidence, Vince goes, great, we'll start on Monday. But then I'm thinking, I don't know who this character is. Because if you were in NXT now, you would do a big character study and find out what your character archetype is and all the different facets and try it. I was just kind of thrown out there. And I knew that I wanted to do something that nobody else was doing on the show. At that time in wrestling, everybody wanted to be a cool, strong heel. I want to be NWO or Steve Austin and beat everybody up. And I wanted to be completely the opposite. I wanted to be a comedy, sympathetic character. And at the time, Hurricane was the only kids character. And they had both the Raw and SmackDown were separate. So I knew that one of the shows didn't have that character. So that's kind of just do it out there.
And I mean, at the time, because it was something that wasn't seen before, again, not like it is now, but autism, there wasn't a lot known about it as well. And the character that you kind of portrayed also raised awareness. So you actually helped in regards to the character that you were portraying. Was that something you were aware of at the time, that you could potentially be helping people understand that people who have autism, for instance, can still go on and do everyday things and succeed in them?
It wasn't really something I thought of as I was going in, because when they put Eugene on TV, they just simply said, he's a very special boy. Yeah. There was nothing more than that, and the fans got to draw the conclusions. And I didn't want to put any specific labels on who Eugene was. He was just an athletic guy with the mind of a child. Just a very childlike mind. But portraying the character over a couple of years, I got so much positive affirmation from people saying, listen, my brother has autism and he watched you and he thinks now that he can do anything. And I have given hope and inspiration to people, and it's a really awesome feeling.
And a person that they put you with as well to work with was William Regal, and you two worked so well together. You had the chemistry just hit straight away. Was he someone you learned a lot from? Because he's technically just one of the greatest wrestlers out there.
Absolutely. I mean, I was a fan of Steve Regal, Lord Steven Regal. I'm a fan of William Regal. And, the writers in WWE wrote Eugene's story perfectly. They gave me credibility by putting me as Eric Bischoff's nephew, and then partnering me with Regal. It was like an odd couple back and forth. And it was just magic. The minute we were together, it was just off and running and fun, and people loved it. And they got the emotional connection with Eugene, and Regal, who's always been the villain, is now kind of showing some emotions. And it was a magical time.
And what do you think? Do you think he's doing really well with NXT, because he's really kind of made himself known as this guy that's more than just a wrestler? He is the business essentially. So what do you think about him in NXT?
Absolutely. He's great. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's phenomenal. Everybody looks up to him. He's a great leader.
And of course, one thing I remember, and it was one of the most electrifying moments, it's one of those moments you get goosebumps, was, of course, it was sad when you, Jonathan Coachman and Eugene, you were walking up the ramp, and you obviously was very sad. The next thing, as you just got to the end, the Rock's theme tune hits and the crowd erupted. that must have been a special moment for you, not only working with one of the greatest entertainers in the industry, but to have that chance to do a storyline with him. When they came to you and said, look, you're going to be working with The Rock, what were your initial reactions?
So it was in San Diego early in the day. So in San Diego, we have to be there early because of the time zone. So we get there at like 10 in the morning, and I was friends with Rob Conway and Sylvain Grenier, La Resistance. So Sylvain comes to me and says, because he's friends with Pat Patterson, who's in the creative, and he goes, I think they're going to try to bring in somebody special to bring in with you today. Okay. And I said, well, it's not 100%, but they're either going to bring in The Rock or they're going to use Rhino. No, not knocking Rhino, but that's kind of a big distinction there. And I'm sitting there thinking, because The Rock was in LA at the time filming movies, and I'm thinking he's not going to come. There's no way he's going to show up. You know, he hadn't been on TV for 2.5 years, and then by God, he showed up. And I was on, I think, 6 or 8 segments that day. So I was running around doing all these pre-tapes, learning all this stuff, and then I'd go back, and the writers had written all of his stuff out, and he was practicing it. And I'd go back there, and we'd run through it, and I had one line in the whole thing. And every time we practiced it, I missed it. I'd run around and do all the stuff I had to do and go back and we'd go through our script again. And line would come, that's your line. Oh, I missed it every time. So we're in the ring. Like, well, let's back up. Coachman kicks Eugene out of the ring, walking up the ramp. I'm literally crying. I mean, it was emotional. The fans were like, no. And the minute that music hit, and like you're talking about goosebumps right now, and the electricity, the heat in the building came out, and he came out, and because people hadn't seen him, nobody knew he was there, and it was off and running. Eugene, get your ass back in the ring. And we went on, I think it was slated for like 9 or 10 minutes, and we went like 17 or 18 minutes, which you do not do on Raw. You don't go over. And The Rock goes, well, it's okay if it's really good, and it was. But he's saying all this stuff, and he's cutting a promo, and he says whatever, and he's walking by me, and he goes, your line's next. And just fed me the line perfectly. I mean, he was such a pro. I didn't know him. That was the first time I'd met him. And for somebody to come back and help me, help give me a hand up was just he's the reason that Eugene became a megastar. That moment in time was a moment that's crucial in my career, and I couldn't have done it without The Rock.
And one moment I would always remember is he said that it's something like people are here because they love you or they love Eugene, and then the crowd started cheering your name, and it was the loudest eruption. When you're in there and you're trying to keep a serious kind of, I'm in character mode, was there part of you that was like, oh, I'm getting a bit emotional here, to hear that reaction towards me?
No, because I mean, it really, when I'm out there, when I was with Eugene, I let my emotion come out over the top, because Eugene was very emotional. If he was happy or sad or funny or whatever was going on, it was like, yeah, it was a special feeling.
And we talk about The Rock being one of the greatest, but of course Triple H also one of the greatest. Has celebrated 25 years in the business, and again, someone else you had a good storyline with. 1 minute he was going to make you an honorable member of Evolution, and then he turned on you when you cost him the championship, didn't you? I think it was Chris Benoit, if I remember. And he turned on you. That became a big storyline. So when again you found out you're going to work with Triple H, because he was just one of the megastars at the time, were you thrilled that you were getting these opportunities, every time?
I mean, yes, but at the time it was just it was coming so fast and it was so surreal. I'd wrestled for almost 10 years up to that point. 10 years, and all of a sudden now everything was paying off. All the work, all the practice. A lot of guys would go up on TV and they weren't ready, and WWE would give them the ball and they would drop it, and so they would pull them back. And I felt like every time they gave me the ball, I just kept scoring. I just kept doing it. I didn't try to do too much, and they gave me just enough. And to be able to work with Triple H, the people loved Eugene, and then he was. It could be the greatest heel of all time, and just it was very good.
And what did you have a relationship with him backstage? What was he like to talk to before your matches or having a chat? Were there any kind of friendships or laughter between you both?
I mean, it was a business relationship, but I mean, yeah, everybody jokes around backstage, and he's a great guy, and he's funny, and he's there to enhance WWE and himself. But if he knows that somebody has, he can work with somebody, he's definitely going to want to pair his character against theirs.
And of course, another moment is when you turned on Uncle Eric and shaved his hair off as well. And I think there's a lot of people in the business that would have loved to have done that at the time. It seemed Eric, when he was in WCW, was a very serious guy. He liked to ruffle feathers. But when he came into WWE, it was like that weight had been lifted. He didn't have the responsibility of keeping a company together. And he just became this entertaining character. And to allow, obviously, things to happen like shave his head. What was it like to work with Eric Bischoff? What how do you know him from your time in WWE?
Yeah, Eric's super nice. Like when I wrestled in WCW, I'd met him, shaking his hand, but I didn't really know him. And then all the stories that I heard of Eric Bischoff from WCW as the head of WCW were, not good stories. So I was a little leery. But like you said, when he came to WWE and he was just merely talent and he could just go out there and perform, he is an incredible performer. And again, he and I had chemistry from the get-go, and it was easy to work with him. And after that, like when I started Midwest All Pro Wrestling here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Eric reached out and said, "Hey, I'd love to come in and I'll come in for free and help you guys out." So we had a big event that we gave some of the ticket money to charity, and Eric came and was on one of our shows.
Wow. So because he's another one, he really loves the business, and you see it on his social media. He's always going to, like you just said, help other people. And you stayed in WWE. You did various things on the shows. But I wanted to talk about when you found out you were getting released from WWE. Was it a shock to you? Was it something you were kind of expecting to happen?
Well, it was kind of a shock. There was they just started the wellness policy, and there was a violation. There was a discrepancy in the violation, but alas, it was so new. They just kind of, to make an example, released me. I mean, it was unfortunate, but that's the way the business was at the time.
And obviously, you'd given a lot to the company. You're involved in big storylines. Was that because I know you did some returns throughout the years. Was there part of you that had a bit of animosity or even hatred towards the company? Did you feel kind of hard done by? Because going back after being released, I don't know how that would have felt for you.
Yeah, I think not very many people exit the wrestling business on their terms. So almost everybody that exits is a little angry or bitter for a short period of time. But the fact of the matter is they gave me so many opportunities. They gave me the platform to be able to be known around the world. I still have a good relationship with them. And like you said, they brought me back. I got rehired and I was on SmackDown. And I was on Raw for one event there. And then I turned around and I was a coach at the Performance Center in 2013, 2014. So, I mean, I've got a good relationship with them, and some of my students now are getting tryouts for WWE. So it's like,
And so, obviously, you mentioned about having your own promotion as well. So, can you tell us a little bit about that and how that actually all came about, and give us a bit of information on it?
So, my wife is from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and we moved here in 2015. We started a small wrestling company and started training students, and we've run monthly events in Sioux Falls and around the area. I've got about 50 students now. So, we're touring on the weekends, doing live events. We're training throughout the week. It's called Midwest All Pro Wrestling. The website is MidwestAllPro.com. We're on Twitter at Midwest All Pro. We're on the Facebook. We're on the YouTube channel. Trying to build a little territory here in the Midwest and bring professional wrestling. Before we came here, there was no independent wrestling in South Dakota. The nearest company was 4 hours away. So, like, the fans that like WWE, didn't get to see any of their homegrown stars being made. And once we brought it here, like, the fans of the Midwest and of Sioux Falls have just really taken to us.
And how many shows do you put on, say, in a month? Is there something you have a couple of shows a month?
Generally 3 to 4. I mean, sometimes it might be less. During this big COVID outbreak, we haven't done anything. But, I'd like to get back to running at least one show a weekend. And then we do a main show in Sioux Falls that I'm trying to work into, like a little local TV show, but just a work in progress.
And you mentioned Eric Bischoff came to help you at your launch event. Have you had any of your other friends that you've made over the years in wrestling that have actually come and helped you and supported you in your company?
Oh, absolutely. Carlito came in for us. Chris Masters has come in for us. Tatanka came in. X-Pac. Who else? Davari came in. God, I know I'm going to leave somebody out. The Tommy Dreamer came in. Victoria came in. Yeah, I mean, I've reached out to a lot of guys, and everybody has come, and I'm bringing more guys soon, so it's exciting.
So the people that are local there must be loving it. The fact that they're getting to see all these people that they once watched on TV actually come into their hometown with the up-and-coming talent as well. It's kind of given them everything.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, the fans have taken to us. The guys that I'm training, of course, are also from the area. So then, their friends and family get to see them in the ring, tagging with, Hacksaw Jim Duggan was another one. Hurricane came in, so it's like, yeah, it's a very family environment.
And what else do you work on at the moment? Is there any other projects that you kind of work on regularly that you can tell us about?
I'm attempting to write 2 books, actually, but I'm not really a writer, so that's a slow thing in progress. I'm thinking about diving into the paranormal and UFO realm, but I don't know. I find it interesting. I don't know that I'm going to delve into it. I don't know. I'm pretty focused on wrestling and just trying to stay fit and just increase our brand. I don't do a whole lot outside of that.
Well, one thing I can definitely assure you, as soon as we finish the interview, I'm going to be on your website because I'm just mesmerized by. Are they all your own? Are they action figures of you behind you?
Yeah. Hold on, let me grab one. Hold on.
That's crazy. I love that.
Where's my thing? You know the best part about having your own action figure? You get to play with yourself in public.
I love that. I didn't know Eugene had so many figures.
Yeah, there's 4 action figures. There was the original one, and then the second one was the one with the Eugene shirt, Hulkamania style shirt. There was a 2-pack with Maven, and then a limited 2-pack with Triple H.
Well, hopefully we'll get to see you over in the UK at some point because wrestling here now has become so big. We have all the conventions, the Comic-Cons. So hopefully that's something we'll see in the future.
Oh, man, I've been over to the England, UK several times, and I absolutely love it over there.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I know it's, I've been emailing you a lot to get you on, and it's just nice to talk about your career because you've done so much. You've worked for years. You've wrestled the greatest people, Triple H, The Rock. For you right now, if I was to ask you, what's your career highlight, the one thing that stands out for you as your personal best moment, what would you say it is?
Wow, a career highlight. Well, I've done so many things. I mean, I was tag team champion in WWE with William Regal. I was in the ring with The Rock. I was in the ring with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania. Eugene even pinned Vince McMahon, but I'd have to say my career highlight was absolutely the day that I met my wife.
That's a very good answer. Talk about Hulk Hogan as well. He hit the media a lot a few years ago. He was taken out of the Hall of Fame, and he, rightly so, back in now. What was he like to work with as a person? Because he is probably one of the greatest personalities in wrestling of all time.
The Hulkster's awesome. I got to meet him. I was excited. I was a fan of Hulk. When I was a coach at the Performance Center, he came in to do a photo shoot. He came in and I didn't know if he would remember me or not, but of course he did. And I mean, the Hulkster's just an awesome guy.
I say your T-shirt's kind of a bit of a tribute to Hulk Hogan, isn't it?
Eugene Mania, brother.
I love that.
What you gonna do?
Thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, I really appreciate it.
Well, I just want to send one message out to all those promoters in the UK that I've got an unsettled beef with Grado. And if anybody wants to, we had a match. What do you guys call it over there? A bum bag? You don't call it a fanny pack, right? It's a bum bag, right?
Yeah.
It's a bum bag on a pole. 4 poles, 4 bum bags with weapons inside. And Grado and I went toe to toe, and he beat me. But I want a rematch. And if any promoter over there is willing to put this match in their arena, we're gonna sell out the building.
Amazing.